Welcome along to the Met Office Deep Dive. This week we're asking, will the fine, warm, sunny weather really last until September? Only joking. We are, of course, talking about rainfall. And July so far, how wet has it been? And are there any signs of summer? I feel like we say that every week. We have found some heat on the other side of the Atlantic, but it's probably not the kind of heat any of us would really enjoy. We'll be talking a little bit about extreme heat in the States, and we'll be taking a look at what has happened to that record-breaking Hurricane Beryl. But we will be focusing, first of all, on the UK weather. Welcome along. My name's Alex Deakin. I'm a weather presenter, meteorologist here at Met Office HQ, and you are watching The Deep Dive, where we love to read your comments. So please do keep them coming in. I'll be in the comments at about 4:30 this afternoon, so I can react to some of the comments in there live. But if you're not watching this before that, don't worry about it. Do please put the comments in. We do read them. We love your feedback, anything that you'd like us to talk about. We've had quite a few comments from people saying they enjoy when we go around the world and talk about other parts of the world, which is one of the reasons why we're looking a bit at the States in this week's Deep Dive. If you're not subscribed already, please do that, and do hit the like button as well. That does us a big favour, spreads the word, gets us watched more, and that enables us to make more of these kinds of videos, which we do love doing. One thing many of us are not loving, I know some people do like this kind of weather. We get a lot of feedback around that, but I know also a lot of people are very keen for some fine and sunny weather, and we certainly haven't seen that recently. July has been very wet. The satellite image from the last few days just showing clumps of cloud moving up across the UK. Quite telling. This is the satellite picture, the infrared, the view from space, but actually you can see just by the lines of the cloud where the jet stream is lying. It's lying down to the south. We can put the jet stream on just to prove that. It's down here, look. This is the jet stream. We had a hot spell. We got to 30 degrees for the first time this year at the end of June, and when that happened, the jet stream was up here, but now it's shifted back south, and that's where it's been for most of July. And, well, to be honest, not a lot of sign of it shifting. The jet stream is down here, and it's the jet which develops and pushes low pressure systems our way. That's what we've got at the moment. Big area of low pressure. It has been a pretty bleak morning across much of northern England. Now there's a thunderstorm warning out as well. That rain drifting northwards. Any sign of a shift? Well, as I said, not really. Let's just skip forward a couple of days. The jet is still down here on Wednesday. Thursday, it is still down here. And even at the end of the week, the jet is still south shifted. Let's go back to the end of the week. So this is the picture into the weekend. The jet stream is still down here. Of course, there is a warm and a cold side to the jet. It's the temperature contrast which drives the jet stream. And you can see we are on the cool side of the jet for the rest of this week and into the weekend. However, we are seeing a subtle shift in the jet stream, because if we just bring it back to where we are now, notice it's digging in and developing this area of low pressure. But actually, once that's out of the way, the jet is kind of flattening off a little bit and staying to the south. So this low pressure, let's take those temperatures off, this low pressure doesn't really make it into the UK. It flirts with the far south, may bring some rain to the Channel Islands for a time. But actually, with the jet staying here and not really developing this low, this is a big chunky area of high pressure, and that will at least calm the weather down for many of us during the second half of this week. Remember, even with that high pressure, which does look like moving into the weekend, the high is still there because the jet is now taking the lows just a little further south. So we do have high pressure sitting close by to the UK. When you've got high pressure, that means the air is generally sinking. Got low pressure at the moment, the air is rising, generating clouds, generating rain. So with high pressure pushing in slowly but surely, it does look drier for the end of the week. But we're still on that cold side of the jet, so it ain't going to be warm. Temperatures aren't going to jump up spectacularly. The winds around this are high pressure. Let's take the jet stream off and put the surface winds on, still generally coming down from the north. So what we've got at the moment, low pressure, jet stream to the south, cool and wet. As we go towards the weekend, it does at least look a little drier. And of course, this time of year, heading towards the middle of summer, with a bit of sunshine, which we should see, even though temperatures aren't going to be spectacular, it'll probably feel a little bit warmer as we head towards the weekend. It certainly does look a bit drier as we head towards the weekend with this high pressure, but notice those breezes still coming down from the north and still a potential for some showers. It's not going to be completely dry this weekend. It just won't be as wet. So the weekend is looking quite a bit drier. Let's take a look, in fact, at the rainfall. So this is where we are today. This weather front sitting across us, that's the low pressure that we saw earlier. Tangle of weather fronts through the course of the next 24 hours, that pushes northwards. But look in here, in this zone. So we've got the weather fronts bringing the more persistent bands of rain. But what's happening today is the low pressure is moving north, the weather fronts are moving north, taking the more persistent rain. But in here, actually what this low has done is drawn up some warmer air. So in this zone here, temperatures are getting up to 20, 21 degrees. Under the rainy zone, so southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, we're only at 15 or 16 degrees. But what's happening now, skies are actually, after a wet start, starting to brighten up over northern England and parts of Wales and the West Midlands. So in this zone, we've got the low pressure, which means the air is rising, and a bit of welly from the sun is warming things up at the surface. And that is all going to lift things up, and that is going to generate some thundery showers in this zone as we go into the afternoon. So just keeping our eyes peeled on this zone in here, where there could be some thunderstorms breaking out. Some signs I saw earlier on the satellite picture of the clouds really starting to bubble up. And that is why we have a yellow weather warning in place for these thundery showers in this zone. Now, not everywhere in this zone, covering northwest England, a good part of Wales and down to the West Midlands. Not everywhere in that zone will see thunderstorms, but that is the area most at risk. As the low moves north, the air rushes up, some big thunderstorms likely. Met Office yellow warning in place. It'll be one of those, it's a classic kind of summer situation where one place sees a torrential downpour, 5 miles away it may be completely dry. But if you're driving parts of the M5, the M6, the M62, you could suddenly catch a really heavy downpour through the rest of the afternoon. So we've just issued that warning in the past couple of hours and needed to see where things were developing to pinpoint that warning. But we also have a warning here across northern Scotland. Now, this is a slightly different beast. This isn't for the thundery showers that are going to be hit and miss. This is for the more persistent rain that is starting to appear now across northern Scotland. So this rain band is tracking its way northwards. Let's fast forward to this evening and tonight and then pause it there, because it kind of just spirals in. See, the low pressure's now in here, but this band of rain just keeps on coming and the winds are coming into here. And so we are just going to get the rain lingering across northern Scotland. It's going to start later this afternoon and then continue overnight and continue, in fact, for much of tomorrow. If we just scoot through the course of Wednesday, notice quite heavy rain as well. The yellow colours there just filtering in for most of Wednesday morning. Let's take a look at that, what that means in terms of rainfall totals. Let me get this right. Let's put the bars on. We can tweak the map. So that's what we're looking at the moment. 3 hourly rainfall totals this afternoon. But if we fast forward to 24 hours, let's go to the end of Wednesday and put the 24-hour totals on. There we go. So these are the 24-hour rainfall totals till midnight Wednesday night. The clock's gone. Sorry, Rich is too quick for me on the camera. There we go. So these totals here, northern parts of Scotland, there's the key along there. So some parts in there seeing 50 to maybe 75 millimetres of rain, and that's over quite a broad area. So you see these spikes here, that's where potentially we're going to see some thundery showers across the south. They'll be very much hit and miss, very localised, but that's a broad area that's going to see 12-hour rainfall totals of 50 to 75 millimetres of rain. Maybe I can put the 24-hour totals on. Yeah, so there's the 24-hour totals. And again, you've got some oranges in there across northern Scotland, 75 millimetres of rain or more across northern Scotland. And quite a wide range. You can hardly see the map there, can you? But there's the Western Isles. There's Shetland just poking out, getting away with it largely. These are the columns for northeastern parts of Scotland, particularly that Murray coast with the wind coming in. That's going to generate a lot of rain over the next day or so. That warning starts tonight and goes until the end of Wednesday. Easily we could see 50 to maybe 70, 75 millimetres of rain. That is likely to cause some disruption because it will just keep on coming throughout tomorrow. So a couple of weather warnings. Do go and check out our app and our website for more details on those, of course. But that's just something we'll be keeping an eye on over the next 24 hours. After that, it does look like calming down, as we've already seen, without it particularly warming up. If you look at the temperatures for the next few days, even by Friday, with a bit of sunshine, just struggling to get to average. And notice with the breeze likely to be coming in from the north, those North Sea coasts, likely to stay particularly cool. So, yeah, we are talking about some drier and brighter and sunnier weather as we get towards the weekend, but it's, still on the cool side for sure. Some signs of something a little bit more optimistic perhaps as we go into next week. I'll have more on that in just a moment. But first of all, let's take a quick look at what we've seen so far in July, because it has been really remarkable. June was a cool month. June was cooler than May. May was a particularly warm month, although I know many people didn't feel that way because it was biased across the northwest of Scotland and not that warm in the south. But the opposite is now true of the July rain. That is definitely biased across the south. This is showing the rainfall accumulation so far through July, up to and including yesterday's data. So this does not include today's rainfall, of which there is plenty, as we have already seen. And you can see here how we are tracking compared to the average line, that black line there. The highest ever recorded in July is this orange line. So we're a long way from that, but actually we're pretty bang on the 90th percentile. So we're at 90% compared to average, the 90th percentile. So we're in the top 10% for wettest Julys at this stage. Still a long way to go, and plenty of things can change, but that will jump up beyond that 90 percentile line with today's rain. Of that, I am very confident indeed. And it has been, again, not distributed evenly. It never is, of course, but this map is really quite interesting because it shows where we have seen close to July's rainfall already. So this is, again, a cumulative map of the rainfall so far. We're only, this is up to yesterday, so 8 days worth. So you'd only expect at this time to have seen around 26% of average. So you'd expect, if it was bang on average, most of the map to be this darker shade of brown, but it's not. Most of the map is the lighter shade of brown, and there are chunks of it, even across the Highlands, but particularly across the south, East Anglia, down across the northern home counties, down towards the southwest, where we are already white, southeast Wales as well. And white means we are close to average, between 75 and 125% of the average rainfall for July. And this is only, of course, for the first 8 days. So just over a week in, and some places have seen close to, or actually above, the average for the whole month of July. And there's some stats for you against some of the home counties picking out there. This is compared to the whole month's average, how much rainfall we've seen. Berkshire, Oxfordshire and Hertfordshire have already seen their average, and in the case of Berkshire and Oxfordshire, a little bit more than their July average rainfall within the first 8 days. And quite a few places not far behind. Bristol, there's a few of those places that I couldn't get onto this, but I wanted to put Greater London in there because that's really jumped up in the past couple of days. 86% of their July rainfall. And again, that doesn't include today's rainfall statistics. Wanted to mention London specifically because there's a bit of a tennis event going on, and just to highlight how wet it's been. Of course, now they've got a couple of roofs, so play has been able to continue, but I know a lot of the outside courts have been particularly soggy. These are the rainfall amounts that we've recorded. We use Kew Gardens as the rainfall for Wimbledon. That's the nearest rainfall gauge that we have, showing how much rainfall we have seen. And you can see that last Friday in particular was a wave that went across the south. It was a wet day. 26 or an inch of rain fell on Friday, and many of the days have seen some rain. The last couple of days in particular have seen quite a bit of rain, 4 and 8.4 millimetres of rain. Nowhere near the wettest, actually. The wettest day recorded at Wimbledon was 62 millimetres of rain recorded many years ago, and that was actually from a downpour. So you get different flavours of downpours, I guess, at this time of year. You're either going to get the fine and sunny weather either side of a torrential thunderstorm, or you're going to get what we've seen this year, the kind of more persistent rain, which isn't perhaps as intense, but is still obviously wet enough to cause some disruption. Wimbledon's also shifted. Of course, Wimbledon used to be, a couple of weeks earlier, used to kind of finish the weekend that it started. So it's tricky to compare direct Wimbledons historically, because it used to be a little bit earlier in time. But yes, it certainly has been a fairly damp Wimbledon so far. The covers, or the roofs, will be needed for the next couple of days. But with that high pressure moving in, I'm reasonably optimistic that we should be okay for the finals weekend. And actually, I don't think we'll see too much rain, maybe a shower or two on Friday, but towards the weekend, the weather should be settling down a little bit. Okay, so it's been a wet July because of that south-shifted jet stream. It's been a cool July as well. Temperatures following on from June's cool trend continue to be below average as well. Where is the heat? Well, there's various pockets of it around the world, as you might imagine, and let's try and find some, because we need to be south of the jet stream. There's the jet stream. All the hot air is down towards the southeast, across Europe and across northern parts of Africa. Again, as you'd expect at this time of year. But let's go further afield, because there is some remarkable temperatures being recorded in the United States at the moment. This is an area of high pressure sitting right over California. That area of high pressure, intense sunshine, what they call in the States a heat dome, where the heat just builds day on day here. And we've seen some remarkable temperatures recorded across this part of the world. It's the hottest time of year anyway, but temperatures are still 5 to 8 degrees above average. And that is likely to continue with the heat in this part of the world under that area of high pressure for the next few days. If anything, if we go through, the heat is going to push a little further north, up towards the northwest of the United States and into western parts of Canada over the next few days as well. Let's take a look at some of the temperatures we can expect in this part of the world. Again, nothing remarkable about the UK's temperatures, but let's head to the States, where we've got this zone of heat at the moment. Extends down to Mexico, I should say that as well. We've had incredible heat throughout this year in parts of Mexico, and that's where we're seeing the top temperatures at the moment. Zoom in a little bit on that, and then if we put the actual temperatures on, we can just scroll around here from Phoenix. Look at that. Mid-40s, peaking on Friday there, even up towards parts of Utah. We'll get into 40 degrees Celsius, but also extending up here into, what's that, Washington State's up there, isn't it? You know, mid to high 30s, pretty unusual for them, but the heat really peaking down here in California, up on Friday up to 47 degrees Celsius. And we've already seen extreme heat in this part of the world. These are the messages that we're getting from the National Weather Service in the United States. This is a map of where we're going to see the heat index. The purple is the extreme heat, California into Nevada and Arizona. Again, this is the hottest time of year in this part of the world. So this is extreme, beyond what's the average by 5 to 6 degrees Celsius, even up to 8 to 10 in some locations. But you can see also they've got this extreme heat potentially as far north as Washington as well. And we do know also parts of British Columbia are going to see the heat as well. Lots of decent advice on there. The text, I'm going to zoom in on that actually. How the temperatures are forecast to cause problems over the next few days, but just wanted to draw your attention to the all-time heat records that have already been recorded. Palm Springs in California, 124 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is 51 Celsius off the top of my head. I would check that out, but my laptop has died, and you don't want me to put my password in on that. That would take too long. So, yeah, I think it's 51. And Las Vegas, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The records don't go back huge amounts, I don't think, in Vegas, but it is still an all-time record for them. Obviously, it's a pretty hot place. But that was just on the 7th, so what's that, Sunday, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is 49 degrees Celsius, I think, for that part of the world. So, yeah, that is pretty extreme. If that's 49, then that must be, yeah, I think that is 51, maybe 52. So, yeah, temperatures high 40s, low 50s of Celsius already, and as we've seen, that heat is likely to continue, at least for the next few days, may start to ease as we go towards the end of the week. But plenty of advice from the National Weather Service there in the United States about how to handle the heat. And they haven't just had to handle the heat, of course, in the United States. I wanted to show you this, which is a thing of beauty. This is from CIRA, and I forget what that an acronym means, but it's something about atmospheric research. Check them out. It's from NOAA. Check them out on TikTok. This post is incredible. It shows the various stages of Hurricane Beryl, record-breaking hurricane. First, the earliest Category 4, the earliest Category 5 storm, made a few landfalls, fatal landfalls across parts of the Caribbean. And yesterday made landfall in Texas. By then, it had weakened. It was only a Category 1 storm. But just wanted to draw your attention to this because actually, as it says there, jaw-dropping. In here, that's the eye of the storm. Now, when you think of an eye of a storm, eye of a hurricane, often people think of it as just being, you know, the sun comes out, all of a sudden you get into the middle of the eye and it's all calm. And that is often the case, but it's not always the case. With Beryl, really remarkable how, particularly in this imagery here, you can see what are called mesovortices. There are swirls within the center of that storm. So it isn't just a spell of calm weather in the eye of the storm. Actually, within that storm, there are more things spinning around, more vortices spinning around, and they can actually generate even stronger winds than you get in the eye wall. Traditionally, the eye wall is where you see the strongest winds within a hurricane, and then it goes calm for a while as the eye passes over, but not if you have these mesovortices in the middle of them, which just spiral around, and within there, the winds, if you hit one of the walls of those mesovortices, the winds can be anything up to 10% stronger than in the wall. So just incredible scenes there from the eye of Storm Beryl. And I wanted to highlight this because I hope you can see that. Rich might be able to zoom in a little bit more on that. But this is a paper from BAMS, which looked at Hurricane Isabel from many years ago, I think about 20 years ago, and you can see, hopefully you can just see within that there is a circulation within the middle, and then within the outside there's like 6 other vortices going around that central vortices in the middle. Absolutely fascinating. And the eye of the storm in the middle of Isabel there. So yeah, some eyes of hurricanes, the weather does go calm and you can see the blue sky up above, but not all. In the middle of there are even more dangerous vortices spinning around that can generate even faster winds, and actually that can also be a breeding ground for tornadoes in the middle of hurricanes as well. So absolutely incredible footage there from the middle of Hurricane Beryl, ex-Hurricane Beryl now, but again, you can just see those incredible. If you want to look at that again, go and check out Sarah on TikTok. That's where that post was from. But just different stages of development. You can see the thunderstorms flashing away there as well. And there's one in a second. Yeah, just as Beryl rapidly intensifying, which was almost 2 weeks ago now, out in the Atlantic. There was last week's deep dive. We had Julian on, our hurricane expert, and he was chatting to Julian. So you can go and check that out if you didn't watch that last week, which was really great insight into how Beryl affected the Caribbean and where Storm Beryl came from. But let's take a look at what is happening to Beryl now. Let's go over to the United States because there is the storm as we see it at the moment. It made landfall on Monday. It's still bringing winds of 80 miles an hour, I think, to the Texas coast. Brought a lot of flooding there as well. It was a 2-meter storm surge. It hit in an area that's fairly used to seeing those kind of impacts, but nevertheless, it did cause some problems, and there was, incredible footage online again of that storm hitting, and it's now moving northwards and will continue to track northwards. Notice now, there's nowhere near as many isobars around it. It's a much weaker system in terms of its wind strength, but it is still bringing with it, just put the warmth, it's still taking with it some of that tropical air. So there's still quite a bit of warm air. It's not as hot as the air over California, but it's taking with it warm and moist tropical air with it as it pushes northwards. So it is taking plenty of rainfall with it as it tracks northwards, and we are still likely to see some flooding impacts as it moves up towards the Great Lakes. and that heavier rain pushing in here. It will become extratropical, I think, later today. Still classed as a tropical depression last time I checked, just before we went to recording, but it will become just a kind of standard low pressure system, or ex-tropical depression, as it tracks northwards. And then, well, we'll see what happens with it. It will interfere in some way with the jet stream, potentially. Not likely to be as extreme or as create such volatility in our weather as often these storms do, because it's going extratropical and then going across land. But it will still nevertheless have impacts where we see the thunderstorms could impact the movement of the jet stream, and that will of course introduce a bit more volatility, a bit more variability into the predictions for the UK weather for next week. But interesting to see how that storm is going to track its way northwards. No longer a hurricane, no longer packing damaging winds, but still potentially causing some flooding as it heads northwards with that wet weather marching in. One more thing to show you, as I just hinted at, our weather becoming a bit more unpredictable as we go through next week. This is the probabilistic pressure trend. We show them a lot on the 10-day trend. Aidan's doing tomorrow's 10-day trend. I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but there are signs. There are signs, if we look far enough ahead, of something a bit drier and a bit brighter, but not the early part of next week. So dates going forward along the top here. Previous model runs going down the side here. Blue is low pressure, red is high pressure. So low pressure is going to retake over our weather as we go into the early part of next week. Sunday and Monday in particular, looking down to the southwest. In fact, I can show you that on here, can I? If we just go back to our weather. Let's spin the globe around and take it forward. So actually, we talked about this high trying to topple in, but there's still low pressure to the east, and eyes are down here as we go towards the weekend, or the back end of the weekend, I think, for as we go into Saturday, Sunday. Then notice this low is starting to approach. It's that which is likely to bring us some wet weather Monday and Tuesday, early part of next week. But ahead of it, we could just start to see temperatures coming up. So for most of the weekend, it's going to be cool. But on Monday, a hint that we could draw in a little bit of warmth ahead of this weather system. But that is going to bring, then it looks like, some wetter weather as we go into next week. But I wanted to show you this chart because just beyond that, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it does turn a little pinky red, which suggests that higher pressure may return. And it looks like if it does, it could also bring some south or southwesterly breezes with it as well, which would also bring some higher temperatures. We've got the high pressure moving in at the end of this week, but it's still keeping things cool. So this could bring a little bit of warmth and some dry weather if that's your bag. I know a lot of people don't want it to warm up and quite happy with the wet weather as it is. But if you're after some signs of summer, then that is a glimmer. That's all it is at this stage because it's over a week away. But at least some signs, maybe some positivity there. No doubt, Aidan will have much more on that in the 10-day trend tomorrow. So don't forget to catch that. And the best way to not forget, of course, is to hit subscribe. If you hit subscribe right now, then you'll get notifications when we do our new broadcasts, which we're always trying to hone and we're always trying to fine-tune, so that's why we love reading your comments. So do please keep your comments coming in. As I say, I'll be in there later this afternoon, so I'll be able to interact with some of you live if you want to do that for a little bit. But that's pretty much it from me for this week's deep dive. Thank you very much for watching. Do spread the love, let everyone know. Not everyone knows that the Met Office is doing this. This is only on YouTube, this deep dive. So if you think you know someone, another Met head who would be interested, then do share the love, and do also give us a thumbs up, hit that like button as well, because that, as I said, that does do us a big favour as well. But that's pretty much it from me. Enjoy the football, enjoy the tennis, and yes, enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.